How's it going, internet? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation, time to get that imagination all revved up and get into some creativity, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Al Williamson. If you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He is an amazing artist, illustrator, painter extraordinaire. He's probably best known for his work with Flash Gordon, also a lot of science fiction and different Western illustration work as well, through comics and novels and covers, and just a phenomenal body of work. So definitely check out more stuff from him. I will throw a link in the description below, but I wanted to show you a couple of images of his that I thought were just phenomenal. You can really tell that I believe he and Frazetta and Torres and a couple other people were big collaborators, and you can see that there's a little bit of influence back and forth between them that is definitely evident. But I love this kind of work right here. Like, this to me is a beautiful example of stuff that I know that I'm drawn to. It's very got that 70s chic to it, but great color choices, really imaginative, takes the blending of color theory and composition and layout and posing and anatomy, and everything's directing the eye towards this center here, where you've got this big moon featuring Flash Gordon here. You've got the line of action going through from this chick all the way up through her body, through her head, from the tip of his toe all the way to the tip of the gun pointing here. You've got your main layout all kind of directing the eye back up to here, and you got some focal points that again all just direct the eye towards the center focus. And I think that the layout is just so great, and I love these mushrooms with these little spores on top of them. I think it's really phenomenal and fantastic. I could spend hours just going over this piece, so I definitely recommend that you guys check out more of his work, because I think he is really top notch and one of my new favorites that I've come across in the last year of my searching and delving into all things animation and illustration that I can. So definitely check out more from him. I will throw a link in the description below. But I did want to share one quote that's attributed to him, and that was, "You gotta love, you got the love there, and that's all that counts. You can dazzle them with footwork, but if you don't love what you're doing, what the hell?" And I think that's totally true. Because no matter what phase of this journey that you're on, if you're just starting out, if you've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, if you've been doing it for 10 or 20 years, you're always going to learn new tips and new tricks. You're going to have days where you're really on fire. You're going to have days where you're really slow. And in the end, the only thing that really matters is if you love doing it, and if you're going to continue working through those slow times and enjoying those highs and those lows. So you got to love it. You got to love what you do. You gotta, if you don't know what it is that you love, find that out. I know for myself, it took me a little while. I spent a while playing with different bands. I spent time doing some acting, and it's okay. It's okay to journey around. I spent time traveling, and I think all of that stuff in the end has just helped solidify myself into finding the path for myself, which is really more probably illustration than animation. But I want to share animation stuff with you because I feel like that's a resource that's not really free and out there, and also it helps inform my illustration work as well. So let's get into some animation. This is the Bruise rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Creative Crash, and it's a new one. They just put this up, as far as I can tell, today, and so I'm really excited. It's using the slap-on rig, and I will throw a link in the description if you guys want to play around with this rig. I think aesthetically, this is probably one of my favorite ones that I've gotten a chance to get a hold of aesthetically in probably the last month or so. So it should be some fun getting into doing this guy. I think we're just going to do a little bit of a walk cycle, but perhaps more of a put up your dukes kind of a walk style with small steps. And I think I want to try doing where the feet don't really pass in a walk cycle. I'm not sure how that's going to work, so we'll see. If we don't end up liking that, we'll just do a straightforward point A to point B walk as well. So let's go ahead and create a polygon primitives cube here. And the little thing that I didn't mention that I usually do at the beginning for the next 48 frames and the next probably hour, half an hour to an hour, will be delving into some animation. It's a free rig you guys can use, and we'll kind of go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, hang out with me while I animate, a little bit of talking about the process, and we're talking about something creative. And the main goal of doing these videos is to encourage you guys to go off and create your own stuff, and always feel free to throw links to your own stuff down below, because really this is, I'm trying to cultivate a culture of creativity, and to hopefully inspire you guys to continue to create and to continue to push yourselves each and every day, no matter what comes. Because some days, you know, you're going to want to go off and hang out with everybody, and maybe that's your choice. But I think if you really want to be something amazing and creative, you gotta sometimes say no to things, which I'm having to today, which is okay, because I want to spend this time with you guys, because you guys are awesome and you're the creative future if you're watching this, and I love you a lot. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's create our first starting or storytelling pose, and kind of going back to what we were looking at with the Al Williamson quote, you know, if you love what you do, it's never really too much of a job, you know. You're just gonna pursue it and enjoy it for what it is, and that's your life. And there's a phrase that used to go on that I'd hear people say a lot when I was first kind of getting into the music world a little bit more, which I don't really talk about that much because I had to sell a lot of my musical instruments and stuff to help fund life. But they have this phrase called a lifer, which I haven't really heard too much in the animation and illustration world, but they definitely use it throughout different musicians and stuff that are known. And that's the, you know, there's people who are in music because they just want to write a song, or they just want to tinker around and make an album, or they just, you know, playing around, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with being kind of a hobbyist at being creative. I think that's way better than just sitting in front of the TV doing nothing. But those people are one sect of kind of musicians, and then you have people who don't really care if they ever really hit that amazing album that goes platinum and everything. They're in it because that's their life. That's what they want to do. That's everything to them, is just creating. And I think there's a different mindset with those kind of people. So figure out which one you are and embrace it and go with it. So, you know, if you want to live your life and go off and have a family and spend all your time with the family, that's great. That's awesome. I would never say anything bad about that at all. But if you're going to be a creative person, really try to push the medium and really see how far you can go with it and how far it can take you, probably that's going to be the bulk of your life. And you know, probably means that you're not going to have a ton of outside things besides what you're into. Now, one thing I'm noticing with this rig is it's going to be hard to get some nice hand posing, because you can see right here that wrist gets all janked up. So, and I don't see a option. Oh, and there's a little blip here too. Wonder where that comes from. Is that the foot? See that little polygonal anomaly there? It's gonna kind of annoy me, but I'll just try to find a good camera angle that we can go without here. Go and bring that out. And do we have any finger controllers? It doesn't appear like we do, which is going to put a damper on us doing anything really with a closed fist. So we will have to think of something different here. Put that forward here. Move that up. Just trying to find a different idea, which is okay. But otherwise, it's going to be kind of difficult to get some really good animation out of this with, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, I think that's fair enough to start with. So let's go ahead and set our frame range from 0 to 48. We'll go ahead and set everything here. Delete that one. And let's start building this walk here. So you can see there's a little bit of deformation going on in the back there, but we'll keep that. Go ahead and move that one back. But I think instead of having it, like I said, lead a lot, we're going to kind of let this foot be ahead for most of the time. Okay. And then we'll grab this one, put it there. And if we don't like it, we can always readjust it. But I think that's like kind of the main idea I'm going to have, where I don't push this foot as far forward as that one. So that way you have a foot that kind of leads the movement a little bit more. So let's go ahead and look at that. I don't know, maybe I'll just keep it that way. It just feels a little off balanced if I don't do it that way. So let's get into our graph editor here. Look at our translate Z. Let's go ahead and just crank those forward a little bit more. Might be a little too much, so I'll scale it back a little bit. Okay, and we'll go ahead and go up on the hips there, and down there, up, and down. And I want to keep the hips a little bit lower than would be really natural for kind of a vanilla walk, because especially if you're getting in a way where you're going to be in a fight, you want to keep your sense of gravity lower so that you wouldn't be tipped over as much. So if someone punches you, you wouldn't fall because you have a lower center of gravity. When you're just walking naturally. Bring that down a little lower there. Let's go and see it now. Okay, and let's go ahead and do the passing positions on the feet here. So let's make sure we lock in each key that we already have one more time, just in case. And raise that foot up. But I think we'll keep, again, the feet kind of low steps here, so we keep that center of gravity a little bit lower here. And let's look at the other one. And again, we're just going to go back in and re-lock down all those keys that we already have, just to make sure they stay on the ground. And we'll go and raise that foot up. Raise that one up again. Let's go look at that now. Okay, we'll save that, and let's do a little bit of side to side over the hips so that they'll go favor the planted foot here. Get the weight shift going. Again, this is probably a little much, but we can always tone it down as well. And I'll go back to 0. And let's kind of even that out so we're not favoring the left side or the right side there. Let's go and look at that now. Okay, and let's do a little bit of rotate Z here, and not just have it translate, but also rotate to favor that planted down foot. Yeah, go back to 0. Okay, let's look at the chest. Yeah, we'll balance that out a little bit more, something like that. This is probably a little over exaggerated, but we'll see. Go back to what it is there. It's not too bad. And let's look at the hips again. And let's rotate them in Y a little bit more to favor that front planted step. And a little bit this way. Still like really favoring that side over the other rather than keeping it really balanced. I feel like this part of the body should be leading a little bit more throughout. So rather than what I normally would do would have it be, on both sides. So it would be going a positive value and a negative value. With this one, we're still going to be having some variation and changing, but we're going to keep the values kind of all in the negative here, so that it is still favoring that one side. But and then again, we're going to want to offset that with the chest because it's a little much right now. And let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit more here. Okay, let's check that out now. I still hope we can find some controllers for those fingers, because otherwise this is going to be a little bit, I feel a little stiff. So I'll see once we get to a good place with the rest of the body. I'll see if we can at least just go in there and move the geometry or something just so they don't completely lock off there. See if we can close up those fists a little more too. And I'll just do a little bit of movement in that arm here. Still want to keep them fairly locked into place, but give them a little bit of movement throughout as well. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just something so that they'd kind of do a little bit more movement than just having a straight kind of stick out from where the connection is with the shoulder here. Again, go ahead and just do a little bit of drag there, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then back to where we started here. And let's look at the other side. And again, we're trying to preserve the main emphasis of the pose, so it's really kind of a hold. It's not a whole ton of movement in there, but that would be kind of a moving hold. So we got the main pose that we want to keep. We don't really want to break that pose too much, but we still want to get some movement throughout so it feels more natural. We should do a little bit more in the hand here and a little bit less in the arm on the screen right side. And that's something that we don't really talk about too often, but whenever you're like talking about your animation, you always want to try and specify that it's the screen left or right, or the characters left or right, and not just say left or right, because that can get confusing. So screen left or right would be this is screen left and this is screen right, but the character's left or right would be this is his left side and this is his right side. So it can get confusing. And that's more for, if you're talking to other people about your animation or if you're giving critiques or any of that kind of stuff. But chances are you guys already know that. But just in case, just a little side note there. And again, this is all, as they say, teleprompter free. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like to go off and grab a rig that I've never used before, is because a lot of times it'll bring up things that maybe I wouldn't have thought of to talk about, or problems or issues. And this way that you guys can see that even someone who's been animating, and not that I've been animating that long, but I've been doing it for a couple years or so now. You can see there's still problems and issues that everyone still gets into, and so maybe it'll give you a little more confidence about your own animation by having someone else show off when they have problems or issues or have shots that don't work or anything as well. Because I feel like a lot of tutorials and guides that are out there for animation focus on like, this is the perfect way to do it, and I never experienced any problems and everything was all fine, and if you do, well, you're doing something wrong and you're not there yet. But animation is an art form, and with art there's going to be things that work and things that don't work. And the thing that I really like that's available for like painters and illustrators and everything too, it wasn't available for animators, which is why I'm kind of doing this series rather than focusing on illustration stuff for sharing on YouTube, is you have people that are like Bob Ross teachers that just paint along and you watch them do it, so you get to see when they kind of make mistakes and how they adjust for them, or when they have an original vision but then it kind of tweaks into something else just because they're inspired by something. But there's really not a lot of that for animation. So again, it's not like these shots that we do together are something that are gonna go down in the annals of history as the greatest animation ever, but it's definitely, I think, a resource that can help anyone who's just learning or who is feeling frustrated with their animation to continue to stay motivated and everything. So that's really the goal there. Maybe if you're, because when I first started, and evidently I'm going down this path here, I was accepted to an animation school, and I've been drawing for a while. Probably only seriously for about a year or so. Other than that, I've just been, here and there, more so than most people, but nothing where I ever thought that I'd pursue it as a career. But when I first got into animating, I had never opened Maya before my first day at school. And so it was really difficult for me, because not only was I trying to understand the concepts of animation, but I was trying to learn the program itself and understand the terminology, and that was it was a very kind of daunting thing, and it took me a while to, and I would say even up until, I'm always learning. I'm not saying I'm not learning anymore, but I feel fairly comfortable with Maya, and the reason that was I would say not because of school. School taught me some great things about animation, but as far as learning the programs itself and the finding the way that works for you was really just a lot of trial and error and just time in front of the machine and tinkering around with it. And that's what the kind of method and the way that I go through a shot is very different than what schools probably would teach you, and you have to figure out what works for you. A lot of people work in, they do a really tight blocking pass and they do everything in stepped curves, but for myself, I've always just found that kind of a straightforward mixed with a little bit of pose to pose and working in spline curves really works for me. And albeit there's definitely some people who do way better animation than I do who work differently, but I feel like previous to kind of coming to this way to animate, I had a lot of difficulties. So maybe it'll help you by looking at your animation this way, or taking this kind of approach to it. But again, this is kind of a different approach than I'd really do with more of a polished shot as well. With that, I'd break it down a little bit more and do tighter timing and tighter posing as well. This is pretty loose. And the thing that the downfall of kind of this approach versus other approaches is you can get a little floaty and a little not as snappy with doing this way. But I feel like it's a good way to go into a shot and get something usable out of it in a shorter amount of time, which is something that I personally like. I have a hard time in other ways, but I'm rambling. So let's go ahead and see if let's go ahead and save our file. I feel like it's working all right here, but like I said, I want to see if I can get into some fingers here. So there's it might be here. Let's show all. Okay, it's not really doing anything. So I think before I go any further, as I have learned and I try to impart to you guys, save multiple versions and save often. I don't always save multiple versions when I'm doing these videos because they tend to be fairly straightforward. But occasionally when I start doing something where I go, you know what, this is pretty much all that this rig is designed for, and I want to start pushing it a little bit more, at that point I'll usually save an alternate version, because you can kind of, what would be the non-offensive term, you can really screw things up. So that gave us something that we might have here. Okay, alright, maybe we'll get something there. Let's try one other thing before you do that. Let's do outliner. Sometimes you can go in and just select things here to do it, but let's see. Let's just try this and see if we can. Have to be careful that we're selecting all the right stuff here. Okay. So if we did it right, we should be able to. Can get a little bit in there. Set that. Set that. Okay. tips here. Let's stretch them out a little bit there. Pull them in a little bit tighter there. And then go back to what we have. Okay, I think I'm not going to do a full closed fist here, so let's try and grab all of those. Right here, we'll just go a little bit less. This one too. Just do more of and let's try and hold it a little bit more. Let's try it that way. And hold that one a little bit tighter. So let's see now. And also let's go not as tight as well. So let's go to about 34 there. So it's pretty much a shift between two poses. So we got pose 1 and pose 2. Yeah, let's give us about 2 more frames on either side of that so we get a better hold. And let's do about 2 more frames of hold there. Okay, and let's see if we can't delay this. If I can grab them all here. Let's see. Delay the pinky by a frame here. And then let's see if I can grab the index, if it'll let me, and push that forward frame there. So let's see. It's not perfect, and I'd love to really get in there and do it a little bit more, but I'll probably take another extra 20 minutes or so to get in there and do it. And I want to try and keep these videos a little bit shorter if I can. And then let's go ahead and see if we can do a little bit on the other side here with the other hand. So this is going to take a while to get all of these here. But at least we can do something with the fingers. I was worried that we wouldn't be able to, so be thankful for that rather than worry about too much. let's look at this top hat and see if we can do a little bit on there, just to add a little more character here. Let's go 3, bring it down a little bit, and up a little bit. And this is way too much, so we'll definitely tone this down, but it gives a good place to start off with. We just want to do a little bit of this. We'll go back again. Okay. So like I said, that's way over the top, but we can do a little bit of it. And it's always easier to over-exaggerate and pull back than to continue inching forward and inching forward, as you've probably seen in times where I take one approach versus the other. I always try to go with this approach, but sometimes it's a little bit of give and take here. And let's do a little bit of rotate X here as well. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and back again. So let's see. And I could probably do more rotate and less translate here. And this way we have a little bit of rotation, a little bit of translation here. Okay, let's still just tone down everything there. Let's see now. Let's do a little bit of rotate Z here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and back again. Maybe a little less of that. That way we get a little bit of life in there. Because I don't think we have any facial controls from what I can tell. It'd be fun to do a little bit of the ears and everything, but I think overall that works for today. So let's go ahead and save our file, and let's take a look back at where we started. We're looking at the beautiful work of Williamson, and he said, you've got the love there, and that's all that counts. You can dazzle them with footwork, but if you don't love what you're doing, what the hell? And I think that's a great way to look at the things that you're passionate about in life and the things that you put importance on. You know, if you don't love what you're doing it, why the hell are you doing it? It's a tough one, but I think it's a good lesson and a good thing to think about and kind of meditate on and focus on. So I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes, and definitely I urge you guys to subscribe to the channel, even if you don't end up watching the videos, but just so if you're a creative person, you can see that every day I'm putting up videos, and each time that you're looking through your subscription channel, you can see that I put up a new video. So maybe that'll, even if you don't take the time to watch it, which I'd love it if you do, but maybe it'll help encourage you guys to continue and to pursue your dreams each and every day. So I love you guys lots. If you're watching this, remember, you guys are the creative future. I totally believe in you. Go out and keep creating and keep pushing your dreams each and every day. And with that being said, we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.